Forgiveness. Forgiveness is an old faithful that I think we've all heard so much about through our whole walk, that it becomes one of those things that we kind of think of and we just pass by. We don't really give it a lot of deep thought or even importance anymore. And I know it's really easy to just say, oh no, she's going to talk about unforgiveness again. But yes, I am, because it is still very, very important. And I think that we underestimate the power that it has to block our growth, to block our freedom, to hinder our advancement in the kingdom. Unforgiveness affects our health, and it affects our prosperity. I believe scientists have proven that unforgiveness has a big impact on the creation of arthritis in our bodies. So it's not something to be passed over lightly, I don't believe. The other day I heard somebody say they were sharing something that had happened in their lives, and they made the statement, "I'll never forgive them." And my heart just sank with grief and concern for them, because I don't think they really understood the power of that statement that they had just made, and that it was doing so much more of a negative impact and damage on their own lives than it was on the person that they had not forgiven. In my work in a healing, I have clients who quite frequently I will ask them to forgive somebody, and to just with intention just say a prayer and just speak out forgiveness over people. And I know it took me a long time to forgive somebody. It took nearly 10 years. It was such a process for me. But whenever I used to think of that person, my stomach would churn, my heart rate would increase, and I just had this horrible kind of sinking feeling. I had no peace inside of me. And I think that can be a really good indication of memories of unforgiveness, or not memories of unforgiveness, but memories that we still carry where there is unforgiveness at the root of them. I think there are people we can think of over the years who maybe have betrayed us or offended us, or even worse. And just the thought of them can just set off a whole train of negative thinking and this big, huge physical response in our bodies. And I think, when that happens, if we can just go to the Lord and say, Lord, this is how I still feel about this person or this particular event. Can you help me, Mark 11:25-26 says, when you stand praying, forgive so that the Father can forgive us. And I think, that one verse says very clearly, or illustrates very, very clearly the power of unforgiveness in our lives, that it can just create such a huge barrier for us in our relationship with other people, and in our relationship with the Lord Himself. When we don't forgive, it can leave a legacy on our bloodline that becomes an iniquity that we then pass on to future generations. I in my sessions with clients, there can be, depending on what the issue is, there can be a bondage, if you like, an unresolved issue, an imbalance that's been created in their body or in their spirit that can go back. I think the furthest I've had these go back is 28 generations. So you imagine something of 28 generations sitting on our bloodline, and the power, the impact that can have on us. Now, I'm not sharing this to make you feel awful or to bring condemnation. I'm sharing it because it's time for us to get over some stuff. It's time for us to stop being victims. It's time for us to stop blaming other people for where we're at right now. It's time to let go and move on. And if we don't, we are only holding up our own progress in the kingdom. I've seen substantial shifts in clients who have forgiven somebody and they've just experienced peace. I've seen their countenance change. When I've been praying with clients who have stood in the gap and asked forgiveness or extended forgiveness on behalf of ancestors, in the spirit, I have seen those ancestors clapping and laughing and rejoicing because they've been set free. You know, we exist in eternity, so we have the power to impact the lives of those who have gone before us. I remember a client, this beautiful lady. She only came to see me once. She said, Fiona, 40 years ago, she said, I experienced a betrayal. And every single day, that betrayal visits me. Every single day in my mind, it is going over and over and over. And this lady, this beautiful lady, she is a believer. And so we sat and we talked about that situation that happened for her. And she said to me, I am so tired. I am so tired of carrying this around. I'm ready to let it go. Can you help me let it go? And all we did was walk her through a prayer of forgiveness and blessing. Wow. Sorry, I still remember that day. A prayer of forgiveness and blessing over the person who had betrayed her. She contacted me the following week and she said, Fiona, I haven't thought about that person once. She said, I have so much peace in my heart. My mind is not even thinking about that person. That horrible feeling that I carried around with me all those years has gone. And she was just so grateful. She was in a place where she was ready to forgive. And God met her in that place. And because she spoke those words of forgiveness, she spoke them in faith. She spoke them trusting that as she released the power of those words of forgiveness, that she would receive her freedom. So I really want to see you prosper. I want to see you grow. I want to see your bodies healthy. I want to see you with the peace of God sitting on the inside of you. And some of us have been through some horrendous things in our lives. And the thought of forgiveness is just as horrendous. You know, we still want to blame. We still carry that horrible feeling inside of us, and that's totally understandable. But I really, really encourage you to begin the process of forgiveness. For me, it was a journey. It was a journey of about 10 years, mainly because it was just an emotional kind of abuse, if you like. But as I journeyed in that process with the Lord of letting go, of forgiving, of speaking out words of love and compassion and mercy, even though they sounded like gongs in my ears, I did it, and I trusted that God was healing my heart. And I sought healing for myself as well. And there came a time at the end of that 10-year period where I was able to stand up one day when a boundary had been crossed again. And I just felt the love of God just rise up inside of me. And I was able to speak words of love, but words putting boundaries in place as well. And I knew in that moment that I was completely free, that God had done a healing in my heart. My prayer is that it won't take 10 years for you to receive that healing. My prayer is that God will do a quick work in your heart. And if you need help on that journey, then please reach out to somebody, because being free of that unforgiveness will absolutely change your life. Bless you heaps. I hope this really encourages you. Know that God loves you and that his heart is to see you just full of joy and full of peace and able to just become fully who you are in his kingdom. Bless you heaps. Bye for now.